Any question? Okay. Grand Rising. This is Ron. It is uh, Sunday morning, July 6th already, a little after 11 a.m. So, uh, see if we have any questions. On yesterday, we started off with a question, and it kind of pretty much led us the whole day, looking at some things going on with the bill, how it not only affects the people, affects the country, affects the world, but and looking at us and our responsibilities and those sort of thing, and uh, recognizing and knowing that we are to see things because of who we are, and everything uh, is not made to shake us, but that's the foundation that we have with each other, and the support and the love, and hopefully the strength that we have in each other to support each other in times when we are shaken by something. But that's what we looked at yesterday. So any questions or comments on anything uh, pertaining to that or anything else?
Good morning, Grand Rising, brother Ron and family.
Yes,
Uh,
sir.
I appreciate, Ron, you opening up in terms of us just being, aware of the support for each other. I think that, and sometimes, we look at it in terms of humanity and wanting to, impact on, the world, but
Mhm.
just our family, that's on the call, our family, that just constantly just stay connected. If we could just, like you say, just be sensitive to reach out to each other in time of need, I think that that's just a awesome thought to know that we care for each other in that way, that at least we can reach out to each other. And I think your point, Ron, just for me was right on point, because sometimes we want to look at it in terms of the worldview, which we do have our meditations and thoughts and concerns, but just to know that we who are gathered can reach out to each other. That's
Got each other.
reassuring. That's reassuring. So I just want to share those thoughts. I'm done.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate your support. Anyone else? Pastor, we were just kind of summing up yesterday, and what we discussed, and supporting each other, even at the end when we are talking about who we are, and what our responsibilities are. And sometimes things do kind of emotionally move you in one place or another, but that's why we have each other. And so any questions or comment, any follow-up from anybody on that thought?
Hey, Ron,
Okay.
this is Charles.
Hey man, how
I
we doing?
wasn't in on that. I'm doing good. How are you, man?
I'm great.
I wasn't on Saturday because I had a lot of stuff I had to do. I didn't hear what was said, but I'm understanding that all of us as a family here, is it like a recipe? Is it like things we cook for each other and bring together so we can sit down and eat and talk and fellowship? I
Hmm.
like the way we, different family members bring dishes, and so we can taste it and and talk about the dish. And sometimes you can, intermingle with the family to find out you might can make the dish a little bit better than what it is. I like the way we explain how the dish was cooked. I like the way that we talk about each other's dish. Man, she had made something good. I had to go talk to her to find out what she put in there.
Yeah.
My dish is like, it's good, but she put something in there to make it banging. So I like the way sisters and brothers come together and show off the dish and talk about the dish and relate to one another about different atmosphere of how the dish be made.
Mhm.
I mean, I love it.
That's a great analogy, Charles. You're exactly right. That's kind of sums up how we do things, and actually what happened on yesterday. Uh, we got together and we were discussing the bill that was passed from the president and the impact, what the bill represented, and the impact it would have, and we even supporting each other and letting each other know that we're all in this thing together. Not only do we have a responsibility to mankind, we have a responsibility to each other. So yeah, we had a good session on yesterday. But thank you. I love the way you did that.
You're welcome. I have another question. It's for the class, and I hope Reb to help explain this too. What's been on my mind and what I've been thinking about, and I've looked at a lot of things. Um, when I'm gonna ask you straight out, and y'all can help me out. When when a person dies, what happens to the person, the body, the soul, and the spirit? Because I have another theory on this. Unless you want me to go ahead and tell you the theory.
You know I want to hear it, but would you rather some other people speak first, or how do you want to
I read it.
get the question?
I read it for other people speak first and see, if we thinking on the same level, or I might be thinking outside the box and ain't thinking of where everyone else might be thinking. So let someone else,
Okay.
tell you what they think.
And thinking outside the box, Charles, is not a bad thing. But I know what you mean, though. Anyone here, Charles, questioned about death and what happens to us after death? Anybody wants to take a look at that?
When
Pastor?
when a person dies, the what we call death anyway,
Yeah.
the true essence of the person simply leaves this house called the body and return to its origin, which is being a part of the light itself, um, being reintegrated into spirituality, which means that it has the capacity to see beyond what they were able to see when they were in this body. That is when the realization is really experienced, the realization of being one with everybody. Me, I'm you, and you are me. That's when that experience becomes more real than ever. I hope that helps. Anyone else?
This is Audrey. I was just gonna say, yeah, we leave the body behind, but the essence of who we are, our energy, becomes a part of the collective unconscious. We basically join our ancestors and we become a part of that collective, but still conscious. That's all I got.
I like that. And consciousness is expanded, I would suppose anyway, to a much greater level.
Yeah, because it becomes a collective.
Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Charles, is that in line with what you were thinking?
Yes, and and another thing, what I had, thought about and read a little bit about. You remember when Jesus told this man? I don't know what scripture that was in. I didn't look at that, but he told this man, "What you afraid of?" He said, "Be afraid of the one can kill the body and soul. The only thing man can do is kill the body." And I said, "Why he say that?" Then I thought, looking at it, and the thief was on the cross. He said, "From this day forward, you will be with me in paradise." I always thought, you know, and it says, everyone in the grave is sleeping. Then that made me really start thinking. So now, the only thing in the grave is the body. That's the only thing that sleeps. That's the only thing can be killed. But when you die, your soul and the spirit goes back to the Father. So you go back to the beginning and the energy. And so you with the ancestors. So I was thinking on that right there a whole lot more. And then I'm saying to myself, so the only thing sleep is the body. The soul can't sleep. It's energy. I mean, you understand what I'm saying? So
Yes.
that's what I've been wrestling with for a whole week. Is that. And so I thank you for what you have spoke on. But like I say, that right there was puzzling me for a while. And I realized I understand that this body go back to where it was created from. The spirit and soul go back to where it was created from. And so the energy cannot die. So you do not die. The only thing die and go to sleep is your body. So when that man fell dead on the cross, his body went into the grave, but his spirit was with Jesus at the beginning. And that's it.
Okay, Charles, I would like to look at that word for sleep again, because I want to understand that passage that says that fear the one who can destroy both body and soul, in order to make sure that that's what the translation should be. Would you mute your phones, please? I want to also, would you please mute your phones? Make sure your phones are muted. I also want to look at the being on the cross, because I don't see where the body actually sleeps. I see where it deteriorates. So I want to know what that word means. When Jesus was taken off the cross, that is a metaphor. The cross is a place of agony, a place of pain. And when it talks about Jesus on the cross, it's talking about all of us. It's talking about when you are in the throes of deliverance, or when you are in the process of delivering humanity from its state of chaos, you endure much pain. And the pain that you endure when you come out at the other end of it, you have died to self, and now you are very much aware of the spiritual energy that you are, and no longer is your body your priority. At this point, the deliverance of humanity becomes the priority. And when this happens, the first thing that you recognize is the cosmic mother being the ultimate authority. And the cosmic mother is the one who embraces you when you are resurrected from the idea that your body takes priority over everything else. And you are seen through different eyes. It's like if you've ever walked into a store or been in any group in the company of other people, and they say there's something different about you. I can't put my finger on it, but you've changed. Even if you're talking about something, they say you don't talk as you once did. That is the recognition of your having died to self and resurrected in the form or in the mindset that you were created to be. Does that make sense so far?
Yes, it makes sense.
Okay.
And real, why we have, as when the body decayed and died, and the time you have to, the body's going to be re-erected. Why we have to wait for the body to be re-erected
Resurrected.
before it can be resurrected, so we can be put back in the resurrected body, and then it's going to be changed into a glorified body that it would never be hurt, pain, or any kind of detented, any kind of, the body can't be destroyed anymore. And it can live eternity.
That talks more about what happens when the chains of chaos, control, and manipulation are removed from humanity. It's talking more about when humanity wakes up and realizes who it is, and also recognizes the power, the inherent power that it has, meaning that you can move as does Jesus, or the example of the entity called Jesus. I should say that maybe. Nothing can keep you bound. You can walk through walls. That is speaking to the idea of being able to move through any obstacle that is placed in front of you. So these sayings in the New Testament especially can be extremely chaotic if we don't have some guidance from the ancestors as to the wisdom of those sayings and the understanding of them. So what I'm saying in essence is this: it is extremely important that that we embrace the reality of what these scriptures are saying. It's extremely important that we have an instructor, a teacher, a guide who is one with the energy force of our creators, of our ancestors and our creator, in order for us to see with the eye and find the understanding of this wisdom. Because there are zero physical people that the Bible talks about. Every one of those who have been deemed to be a person is actually a concept. And the person that was created and called Jesus is a concept of deliverance for all of humanity. And the reason for this is to deliver humanity from what it sees with its eyes and process with its mind, to deliver humanity from that, so humanity in its freedom can understand that what's important and what's real is what you see with your eye and experience with your soul. Another example of that, Audrey asked about the 53rd Psalm a week ago, maybe two, I don't know. But anyway, I remember that. And
Isaiah.
when I read that Psalm, I did not see it talking about Jesus, because that was a question. I see that as talking about the African and the hardships that the African had to endure in order to get to the place where we are now for the benefit of humanity. Does that make sense?
Was
Yes,
that
it
Isaiah?
does.
Ron? Thank you, Charles. What'd you say, Ron?
Was that Isaiah instead of Psalms?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I said Psalms.
Yes.
It's Isaiah 53. I see that as being totally different than what we have been taught it is. Keep in mind that the Bible was not written to talk about Jesus or Moses. The Bible was written to talk about us, to show us who we are. When we realize who we are, we will know what it means to be the image and likeness of the one who created us. We will know what it means when we talk about being Jehovah, or being Ein Sof, or being the light of all lights, or being the source. We are not the source. However, we have the enlightenment that the source gave us. So we are the portion, a portion of the source. And just as Elohim is a portion of the source of everything that is. And we were brought into existence with the spiritual essence of that spiritual of Elohim, and not with the total essence of Ein Sof, or the total essence of the source. And just like your child is born, and your child is not the total essence of you, but it does have your essence in it. That is the same principle with which we were birthed. And having been birthed with that principle, we have the opportunity to make decisions as to whether or not we are going to travel this route that that brings us to this understanding, or are we going to remain earthbound in our thinking, our actions, our speech? That's up to us. However, what we are doing is making every effort to rise above the idea of simply being earthbound. We are in the earth. We are in the midst of earth consciousness, but it is not what created us. It is not what causes us to be who we were created to be. Earth consciousness is a type of bondage that we have to be delivered from in order for us to be able to bring other entities, other portions of humanity out of that space of earth consciousness. It doesn't mean that you won't be aware of earth consciousness. What it does mean is that the consciousness of the earth will be as the consciousness of the spirit realm. And that is when creation take place. That's the result of our being creators in the image and likeness of the first humans in the earth. Just like the first humans in the earth are the image and likeness of Elohim. Does that make sense?
I can
Yes.
see that.
Okay. Are there any questions about that?
Yeah, Reb, I got a quick question for you when you get a chance.
Go ahead.
In order for humanity to wake up, will it be done based on the energy of being nice, or will it be done on the energy of being kind? And nice comes from a Latin word, nescius, which means unaware or ignorant. And just this week, I had to do a walkthrough with one of my coworkers, and he had to explain what he did. And he just said, "Man, I was just too nice." And we just had a conversation about that. So, is there a difference? Will the world change by being nice, or will the world or any situation change by being kind? And do you see the difference in those two words, or which one do you prefer? And that's just not to you, Reverend Richard, that's to the group. Thank you.
Thank you. The idea of being nice and the origin of that word is different than the energy that that word carries now. In order for a word to be embraced in society, the connotations of it have to be understood by those in the society. And the connotation of the word nice is positive energy that embraces the whole concept of being kind. So even though it may mean ignorant in its origin or at the base of that word, the usage of it has altered the origin of it, which means that the energy of humanity has the power to bring positivity to a word or negativity to a word. And those with a European mindset are exceptionally good at that. For example, the word nigger came from the word Niger, and Niger means royalty, speaks to royalty, it speaks to kingdoms. But that word Niger was altered to mean something different. So rather than say Niger, where the word originated, the word was made negative by altering the spelling of it and by altering the meaning of it. Another one is watermelon. Black folk eating watermelon. That was the cash crop for people who left slavery. And in order to make it become a negative thing, white people start putting images in newspapers across the country with black folk with thick lips that were overly emphasized, and watermelon juice all over their face and grinning like Stephen Fetcher. And Black people to this day are uncomfortable eating watermelon in public or even talking about it in public. So the idea of making something, taking something positive and making it a negative uh, is real, just like taking something that could have negative connotations and making it positive. So, what am I saying to you? I am saying to you that regardless of the word or the origin of it, humanity has the power to alter the energy of that word, making it something positive. And that is one of the biggest things that we have done, and one of the major things that we have experienced during this journey for the deliverance of humanity. And I hope that is understood. Or if there's anyone who would like to add to that, please do that. Or raise any questions about it. George?
Well, Reb, just in to the group, just in asking people on yesterday, hey, which one do you prefer? Would you rather be known as a nice person or a kind person? And I got an array of answers. Some people say, hey, George, it's one and the same. Another person said, hey, when you're nice out here, you're viewed as gullible. And what's that, Reb?
I want to address that, but they're being gullible.
And just in my little, I prefer to be kind. Nice by definition means that you're agreeable. And I can be agreeable in certain situations. I just look at, I prefer to be kind over being nice. That's it. Thank you.
Okay. The idea of I'm sorry, in the beginning, you talked about the origin of the word and it was negative, deemed to be negative, even though it wasn't. When it talks about being ignorant of something, being ignorant of something is not a negative thing. Then you came back and said that it means to be agreeable. I understand that words carry with it different connotation based upon the usage of the word. However, I'm going to leave that alone for now. And when you talk about the perception of people taking your being nice as being gullible, they do the same thing about people who are being kind. If you call it kind, they deem that as being gullible. However, just because the perception of someone about you is a thing of being gullible, it doesn't mean that you are gullible. The only way that projection can make you gullible is if you embrace it. There are many, many people who have been taken as being weak or gullible because of their being nice or because of the kindness in their hearts. And the person who or persons who perceive that to be found a different person when they approach them in a different manner. What they found is that this being nice or being kind doesn't mean that you're weak. It simply means that you have a heart for humanity, and it is not your desire to be abrasive or to be demeaning to anyone. And when that is taken as a weakness, then you are the one who have to make known the strength of your being kind. Being kind. That strength does not mean you have to be disagreeable or nasty with the person. It simply means that you let them know in no uncertain terms where you stand. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Questions or comments? Audrey, I want to ask you about what I said in reference to Isaiah 53. That I believe that the references that are attributed to Jesus is talking about the bondage of the African, or the journey that the African has gone through and is going through in order to become what it was created to be.
Well, that certainly all applies to the African. So, okay.
That's what I gathered from it. And also, when I look at all the references that are made to this created image of what Jesus means, when I look at it, it is applicable to the purpose for our doing what we do, and that is to bring deliverance to humanity. And what are we delivering humanity from? From the idea of being right when they demean people. One of the things that I believe we have to look at when we are while we are on this journey of deliverance, it is the reality that we are not in need of anything. The spiritual essence of our being says that we have cattle on 1,000 hills. That is reference to not having to beg for anything, because we are everything. That is attributed to God, those words. Look at the proof of that with us as a group of people in this country. No one has ever given any assistance to us for us to survive in this country. All of the assistance that we have received came from each other. No one has ever given us any assistance. When the Jews left Germany, they received $89 billion in restitution, or in reparations from the government of Germany. When the Japanese were freed from the concentration camps, they were given $1.9 billion in restitution, or in reparations. When the slaveholders ended their ownership of us, or when it was ended, they received reparations from Abraham Lincoln in millions of dollars. So what am I saying to you? We are the only group of people who have experienced the worst bondage that this earth has ever endured and to this day, the most disparaging words are hurled at us. And we are the most despised people on the face of this earth. Yet we rise. Um, Yet we are able to take penance and bring into existence the Black Wall Street. Yet our forefathers were able to acquire land and farm and help take care of the whole community. So what am I saying to you? I am saying to you that only God could do that. Only Elohim can do that, to create something out of nothing, to bring into existence everything that's needed to survive in these bodies, in this earth, in the midst of energy that is constantly seeking to destroy you and cause you to minimize what you think about yourself. So I see the reference of deliverance that are attributed to Jesus as being the energy that we were brought here uh, to um, to utilize for the deliverance of humanity, meaning that humanity um, has been infused with energy by uncivilized people. And that mindset of being uncivilized means that we have been taught to be uncivilized, to be barbarians. We've been taught that the more we acquire, the better off we are, or it makes us better than other people are. We have been taught that money means that you're successful. We've been taught that the acquisition of things that's better than someone else's means that we have arrived. And it gives us a subconscious feeling, and in some cases, conscious belief that there is status in that, and that we're superior to those who don't have what we have, or to those who have less than what we have. When the reality of it is, we are in the process of delivering people from these mindsets so that they will be open to embracing the reality of who they are and embracing the principles that we have internalized. And those are the principles of Mayat that make up our personalities. And that guides us along the way of this pathway towards a deliverance for everyone. So that is one of the reasons that maybe all the reasons that I've spoken of are reasons that I believe that we can insert the African, especially those of us in this country, wherever you see the word Jesus, because it is the essence of deliverance, and we are the deliverers. Does that make sense to you guys? Especially Audrey, who brought this up about 53 Isaiah.
I mean, I just went back and reread it real quick, and I don't know how we missed it, but everything, every single verse would directly apply to Africans
Yeah.
Yes.
in what we've suffered and what I'm just blown away. I
We're
really am.
supposed to see it then.
Yeah.
Well,
So I believe that we are seeing these things at 53 and 54, matter of fact. We've been shown these things for a reason. We are becoming more and more aware of our purpose in this earth. We have been told by others what our purpose is, and none of it is good. The ancestors have guided us to the pages that were preserved by the enslavers. And these pages were preserved by the enslaver for the express purpose of making us dependent on their translation of what this means. And if you look at the Acacia Schism, if you read it and research before it came into existence, you will find how much effort was put into making the concept of deliverance a person.
Yeah.
How much was put into making Jesus a human, a physical being, as opposed to the concept that it is. So the place where we are now is is a place where we have spiritually escaped bondage, but we are still in the process of escaping mental bondage. And as we do that, we bring others along with us. And I'm not talking about just the people who are with us on Zoom or on the phones. I'm talking about people worldwide. And in order to minimize the European mindset to the extent that it is moot, or it is so impotent that it has no influence over humanity anymore. And in order for us to do that, we have to stay this pathway, being free from religion. So we are spiritually, we are aware spiritually of who we are, and now freeing our minds from these concepts of enslavement. When we do that, we are also opening the door for those who are perpetuators of a system of racism, a system of poverty. We are given an opportunity for them to embrace the reality of what righteousness is. And an example of that is the bill that was just passed is pushing people to a place of unification, a place where they are searching for something that will bring humanity together in order to survive what has been meted out to humanity through this bill. And you say, well, what about the rest of the world? Well, the Creator brought us together in this place called America for the purpose of us being put in a position so tight, being put in Egypt, this tight space, to push us to a desire to know who we are and to embrace it totally. And now that we are on this journey, and now that we are doing this, whatever happens in this place called America spreads worldwide. Why? Because the greatest damage that's been done to the humanity and the earth emanates from this place called America. The centralization of the power of the European mindset is in this place called America. So when we truly see it for what it is, and that is a space that is controlled by uncivilized people with uncivilized mindsets, and exporting these concepts and ideas around the world for the benefit of that mindset. And those of us who embrace that mindset have become uncivilized as well. If you say, I don't think that is real, then look at it this way. In 1884, at the Berlin Conference, all the European nations were represented, and they divided Africa and they colonized Africa. However, you will not find an American colony on the continent of Africa, because America stayed in the background, kept their hands clean when people looked at them, not realizing that they were not colonizers in Africa. They were imperialists, meaning that they went in and took what they wanted under the purview of those countries who were controlling those different spaces in Africa. So what happened is the imperialists became the strongest in the earth. When you look at the Geddes, and you look at what are the people on the Biltmore House, when you look at these families, you will see that their money came from their imperialist relationship with the colonizers of Africa. That's where the money, the massive amounts of money came from. So it may feel like a daunting task for us to believe that it is an impossibility for us to be able to change the mindset of humanity. However, when you truly embrace who you are, every time you think it may be impossible for us to do it, or it is a daunting task, ask yourself, is there anything too hard for God? Is there anything that Elohim cannot do? And the resounding response to that is absolutely not. There is nothing too hard for God. So, and having said all of that, my continued encouragement to you is that we maintain the enthusiasm, maintain the desire to bring balance to humanity, to bring people out of bondage. My encouragement is, regardless of how it appears to be, look with your eye and you will see how it really is. Thank you. I'm done. That's the questions.
I think more has taken place this weekend than we realized in this time of independence that we celebrate for America. Audrey said this thing been here all the time and we didn't see it. Something was freed this weekend, not only for us, but for mankind. These words on the page were set free, and they're out there now for anybody who desires them. And so when you pull all that in perspective of what we talked about yesterday, this bill that is designed to create a bondage and a cramped space is really going to be liberating, uh, because when people move to that uncomfortableness, they're going to turn to what's in the macro. So this has been, to me anyway, a very spiritual event. And I think we'll see it play out here shortly, hopefully. But thank you.
Oh, thank you.
And Real, I know you had talked about this a while back. So, as those are the people, so we are brother's keeper. You understand what I'm saying? It's
Yeah.
not just it's everyone. And we as a race of a people, they're our brother's keeper.
Um, wait, you cannot
I'm
be,
not afraid.
you cannot be your brother's keeper if you don't know who you are. You have to, you have to have a heart for humanity. You have to have a heart of kindness, a heart of mercy, but above all, a heart of forgiveness in order to be your brother's keeper. Does that make sense, Charles?
Yes, sir, all day long.
So that's something that I think we should always keep in mind. Ron talked about something being freed this weekend. Um, in 1799, there was a bill passed in New York. And that bill that was passed in New York was for the emancipation of the enslaved people. And all the children who were born after that bill was passed were considered free from slavery, but they were indentured, meaning they had to work for a length of time, their late teens or the early 20s before they were released. In 1817, a law was passed that set July 4th, 1827, as the date for the emancipation of all who were enslaved or indentured. That day, July 4th, 1827, when that came into effect, the enslaved people celebrated their freedom. And the white people in New York sought to massacre them. They killed people, they maimed people, they lynched people who were previously enslaved to them, because they said that these people were trying to take their day of freedom. From the time that I read that, understood that, I understood with a greater clarity why we have no reason to celebrate July 4th, even though the people in New York, the enslaved people, were freed. Because outside of New York, we were still enslaved. In New York, we got the hell beat out of us and were murdered simply because we wanted to celebrate being free. I think that is enough reasoning for us to bypass any illusions about the 4th of July having anything to say good about us. Read the speech of Frederick Douglass that talked about what is the 4th of July to the Negro. Read that speech. And then after you read that speech, after hearing what I'm talking about now, if you can still celebrate the 4th of July, I want to understand where in your heart do you have the love for people who look like you? Can you profess to be your brother's keeper if you're not a keeper of yourself? How can you keep someone else? I'm done. It just, Royce mentioned the 4th of July, just brought that back to my mind.
I'm glad you did, because the first time I heard that.
Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Questions, comments?
Pastor, this is Linda. I was reading an article the other day where Trump was saying that he was going to let the people, all the farmers, have their workers in the field, but they were going to have to be like, have overseers. The farmers were going to be responsible for these people. And is that not another form of slavery? These people are like indentured to these people. They want you to work in their fields, but they're going to be out there and have to oversee them to make sure that, I guess, they don't go astray or something like that. And so I was just looking at and saying, they are putting these people back in slavery to make them work in their fields for them to stay here. I'm done.
Sure. Thank you. You're right. They are enslaving them, or they are upping the ante for enslavement, because what they were paying them was nothing. I remember talking to a Hispanic who rebuilt one of my showers, and he talked about how when he first came to this country, he didn't use these words, but they're mine, indentured to under the authority of this man who brought them here, and how little they paid them. And he was working 15, 20 hours a day. And the little money that he was being paid, rent was taken out for the Ragley trailer that he had them living in. And they barely had enough money to buy food and no money to really buy clothes. So he left. And now what we are seeing is the same principle as he described with an increase of the granting authority over them. And that means to me that, as Linda stated, they have overseers to make sure they don't leave the plantation. What has happened is these people are being told that you are under the authority of the owner of the farm. They own you. If you leave that plantation, you are going to be arrested by ICE and deported. Does that not sound familiar? So why are they doing this? Because large corporate farms could not exist without Hispanics, because there is no one in this country who are going to work for the wages that they pay Hispanic farmers. And without Hispanic farmers, this country would starve. So what am I saying to you? We have to have a deep desire for their freedom as well as ours, even though the enslavement is a different type, it's still enslavement. Even though the Hispanics look down on us, and that is the reason they voted for Trump. They despise us. But it is not the first time that people have despised God. It's not the first time that Elohim has been despised, but it doesn't mean that Elohim abandoned those who despise it. It is our responsibility to maintain the love that we have for our children, because no one on this earth came into existence except through us. Does it hurt? Yes. But it hurts because of their ignorance. It hurts because they would rather be in league with a group of uncivilized people with a European mindset than to be aligned with those who seek freedom or who seek justice or righteousness. And that is not, it's the African primarily, but there are other peoples who feel the same way. And that's why I distinguish between the mindset of being uncivilized, the European mindset, and the mindset of the African that brings civilization, has brought civilization to humanity. And let me further that by saying, when I say that we brought all these people into existence, it doesn't matter what continent you travel to. If you do your due diligence, you will find that Africans were present on every continent on this earth before those who are called now indigenous came into existence. Every continent. Africans were in this country 10,000 years before those Asians came that they call Native Americans now, that came across the ice bridge, the Bering Straits. Africans were here 10,000 years before that happened. And the only indigenous tribe that was not defeated or forced into a treaty are the Seminoles. And the Seminoles are Africans. They are slaves who escaped, or they are the descendants of enslaved people who escaped to Florida. So we cannot hold a grudge against a group of people who are ignorant of their origin and who are seeing with their eyes instead of their eye. They are still our children. And that is the reason daddy, mama cannot get out there in the streets. They need to learn the hard way, life lessons. And then at some point, they'll realize that they have a home to come to. And that home is the place where they will learn who has their best interests at heart. I'm done. Linda, I hope that helped, babe.
It does, but I was thinking, I read another article where people look at Australia and they say if you go back and do your history, Australia did the same thing, enslaved black and murdered them, killed them. If the women didn't do as they say, they would take their kids, their children out, and they would kill them. And it's just been everywhere you look in history, this has happened, and it's just heartbreaking. I'm done.
Australians came from Europe. And when they got there, they found Aborigines. One of the things that they tried to do, they would take the children who were descendants of Africans, and they would put them in school and take their culture and language away from them. And they would, what they call, lighten the race by forcing them to have babies by white men. They did the same thing in Brazil as well. Also in Australia, they fed African babies to, I don't know the difference between a crocodile and an alligator, but one of those. And they did the same thing in Louisiana. They fed black babies to alligators. They used them for bait to catch alligators. So Linda, I'm with you when you talk about how disgusting that is, and yet we still are obligated to forgive as opposed to being angry. Anger causes you to lose clarity in your thinking. Being hurt causes you to express empathy for those who were hurt, as well as empathy for those who did the hurt or who inflicted the pain. I'm done.
Also, Pastor, when you read on your history, we always talk about Black Wall Street, how the white man couldn't see a black man having so much wealth. That's not the only place that this has happened. Every time black men or black people went in and started to build and to have wealth, they always came in and burned it down. Because like right here, I think it was in Boiling Springs, we went to this clubhouse and it was called Lake something. And so we were standing there and we were looking around and we said, "Where's the lake?" And this man was looking, he said, "Well, it used to be a lake, but when the blacks start coming to the lake, this man went in and he filled that lake up to keep, just took the lake out to keep blacks from coming in to be in that lake. He would rather take it away, but they still call it, I can't remember, it's somewhere in Boiling Springs, Lake something, but they didn't want."
This is Lake Bowen.
That might, I don't think it's Boeing. I can't remember what it was, but they, in order for them not to let the blacks come in and swim or fish in that lake, they filled it in. And he, when he said that, he looked so funny. I said, "Where's the lake?" And he was like, "They filled it in. And he told the history. He told the story of it. And I told him, I said, "That's a sad person to be." And he said, "Yeah, I know, that's right." And, he was a white man, but he had to tell me the story of behind why there was no lake anymore.
Thank you for that. There is a place called Little Africa. And it was on Lake Bowen until they got pushed off of the lake. And Ruby of Mount Calvary, her family owned land at Lake Bowen. And they were the last family to own land there. The rest of the land was taken away from the people out of Little Africa when it became popular and the plots began to sell. So this is the history of our stench in America. And while it is heart-wrenching to know what has happened to us, I do believe that the ancestors were showing us that the way of capitalism is not the way you're going to be free. I believe that the ancestors were showing us that seeking to have the life of the enslaver is not going to free you from enslavement. Because the mindset of uncivilized people doesn't change. The ancestors were showing us that the only way to be truly free is to free yourself by knowing who you are and understanding that your anger and your hatred is not going to change anything except your disposition. Embracing the reality that you are the origin of every human on this earth. Embracing the reality that the mindset of the African was taken for weakness, the generosity taken for weakness, taken advantage of. When we embrace that and we offer to everyone the mindset that we were created with, that's when we began to not only free ourselves, but we also free those who have been under the rulership of an uncivilized mindset. And that mindset begins to change, or it changes. And the dominant mindset becomes that of the African mindset. Thank you again for bringing those things to our attention. Questions or comments?
Thank you.
Yeah, Pastor, this is Jackie. I yield, Jackie. Go ahead. Okay, thank you, Ms. Evelyn. Pastor, I just wanted to confirm, because I was struggling this week with the bill being passed, and just wanted to know, was it necessary for the big, beautiful bill to be passed? And
Yes.
then also, just to piggyback on what Linda was saying, I've been reading in articles. I read an article about John Blake from the CNN journalist about his mother. She was a white woman, and how his dad struggled. And he didn't know. And I think the title of the article was "My Mother Before She Disappeared" or something. But anyways, because she dated a black man and gave birth to 2 sons, and I'm paraphrasing, I think they institutionalized her because of her dating a black man, and he saw a picture of her, and then he went on to search for her, and then she was schizophrenia. But anyway, it just sat in my heart, and the things that our ancestors, again, I know I've said this before, but it just makes me appreciate our ancestors. And I was listening to a short video of John Lewis last night when he was talking about the voting rights and the march and how he was beaten. And all this week, I guess, just been seeing things pop up about Black people. And I didn't read this article, or I didn't listen to this video. It was just a video of a young guy that cut a white woman's grass over the summer. He was about to graduate high school, didn't charge her anything, and he just asked her to write him a letter of recommendation just for college. And it said, "You people are always wanting something." I couldn't listen to that one. and it just sat in my heart. So I appreciate all of the feedback and the questions today, because it has really helped me to see, okay, because, you know, I have older parents, and then being here with my dad, caring for my dad, he's 90, and my mother wouldn't talk about a lot of things that happened, you know, back, you know, then. But my dad, he's sharing a lot, and it's like, oh my gosh. And my husband, his mother, his parents wouldn't talk about it either. Some of the things that they had to endure. My grandmother would a little bit. I heard her talk about a little bit about Hoover days, but my dad is, you know, just saying things, and oh my gosh, it's just, again, it makes me appreciate the sacrifices that our ancestors made and some of the things they went through. I've read another video, listened to another video of how the food that we eat, how the chitterlings, how we made it into a delicatessen, you know. And someone asked my dad when he was driving trucks, they was talking about it and said, Mr. Hogue, you eat chitterlings? It's like, yeah. He told them what it was. They said, how could you eat that? He said, you ever been hungry? And, you know, and I was like, wow, you know, it's just a lot. So I appreciate it. It's almost like things are just coming full circle. But the main question was, most of it was comments that I wanted to share, but the main question was it necessary for the bill to be passed? Thank you. I'm done. Thank you, Ms. Evelyn.
Yes, it was necessary. People don't tend to search for change. Let me back up. Excuse me. White people, Hispanics, Asians would never seek change if they were not in the face of on the brink of suffering, as we as a people has done forever and a day. Think about, God, excuse me, how panicked white people, Hispanics, and Asians are. When most of us have heard these words most of our lives, and not all our lives, we have suffered worse. Are those words familiar with you guys? We have suffered worse. We've gone through worse. The worst is about to engulf those who have not gone through the worst, those who have looked at us as being animals, those who have looked at us as being unworthy of anything, and those who have looked at us as a people without a history beyond slavery. Now it is time for the rubber to meet the road for them. As Malcolm said, the chickens have come home to roost. In South Carolina, there are over 200,000 people who are looking at losing their Medicaid. One of the things I've learned about that is this. If you're on Medicaid, this bill says that you have to recertify every 6 months. And the recertification application that you fill out is the same application that you fill out to get Medicaid in the first place. The recertification was put at every 6 months because they believe that a large percentage of the people will make mistakes on the application or will just say, I'm done. And any mistake you make on that application, you are dropped from Medicaid. If you forget to check one box, you are dropped from Medicaid. And you have to go through the whole process all over again, and that can take weeks. And when you're living from paycheck to paycheck, you can't afford weeks simply because you failed to check one box. So we are not the only ones who are going to feel that. The ones who are going to feel it the most are white people who are middle income with parents or aunts or uncles living, because Medicaid is what pays for their nursing home residency. And SNAP is what feeds those who are at home. So this bill is necessary because it reveals the workings of an uncivilized mindset. It shows us what needs to be corrected. And we are still obligated to forgive and to move forward. What I mean by moving forward is, let us not complain, not fear what is to come. Let us have a deep desire for this change to come quickly in order to minimize the suffering. My desire is that the suffering will come quickly, because the faster the suffering is real, the earlier the suffering is realized, the faster we will see change. So the desire is for the effect to be felt. The anger of the people who don't know anything, don't know how to function spiritually, that their anger will force a change. And what we put in the macro will become the direction that the direction that guide them to the place of change. The last thing I want to say about this at this moment is this. Americans are the dumbest people on earth when it comes to politics. Americans know absolutely nothing about how the government functions. I guarantee you that most of the people who will hear our voices believe that the government has to support business so that we can have jobs. That's a lie. The primary focus of a government is to make sure that the people are taken care of and that business treats them fairly. It is not designed to function for the benefit of business at all. And the sooner we embrace that, the better off we will be. Because all you hear now is the government is pro-business. You never hear them talk about the government being pro-people. The only governing body that is pro-business, that has no care for the people, is the governing body that's based on the Greeks' idea of what governance is, a European concept that was in its purest form stolen from Africa and manipulated for the benefit of the wealthy, and calls it democracy when it's really a republic that is controlled by oligarchs. So let your mindset embrace the reality of the true purpose of government and the reality of how government is functioning now. I'm done.
I have a question to ask after Miss Evelyn.
Mari, you can go first.
My question is something that we could definitely table for later. I know we talked about the 4th of July. This year, both the Army, Navy, and Marine Corps will be 250 years old. Our country will be 250 next year, 1776. When I think about the Army, Navy, and Marine Corps, I think about land, air, sea. Is there something connection spiritually with that? And is also with our country being 250 years old next year, is there some type of spiritual significance of that? We don't have to address it now. I just wanted to put it out there. Thank you.
Okay, would you make a note of that, Mara? Because I really want to address that. And can we address that tomorrow night?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Evelyn?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Pastor Jay, I'm like Ron. Ron made a comment that there have been a lot of spiritual changes in the universe, and I am truly in agreement with that. Also, and I think you've already said, we talking about freedom, and the 4th of July week as we know it has ended. I'm talking about the calendar 4th of July. Now, Martin talked about let freedom ring. And my question, and I'm asking you, and maybe you did it already, just to put the icing on the cake. When James Richards says, let freedom ring, can you give us how you feel about let freedom ring? And again, you may have already said it and put it out there in the macro, but how does James Richards says let freedom ring? That's my question.
Relatively easy question to respond to. When Martin Luther King said let freedom ring, he was talking about what he had experienced and what he was seeing with his eyes. And he was talking about having the same opportunities that anyone else in America has in terms of careers, etc. When James Richard says let freedom ring, James Richard is talking about spiritual rulership, talking about being freed from only seeing with the eyes and are able to see with the eye. Coming to a realization of who you are, being free from all of the phony ambitions that we have been fed, being free from the belief that money makes you strong, makes you powerful, being freed from this false narrative about everybody who works hard can be wealthy. If that were the case, all of us would be wealthy. That's what James Richard means. Free from anything that this uncivilized mindset has brought into existence. Free to embrace the mindset that we were created to embrace. Does that help you make sense, Evelyn?
Ashe.
Thank you. Asante Sana. Anyone else?
This is Audrey. I just want to reiterate from hearing what everybody was talking about, Jackie and Linda, and I mean, it goes back to Isaiah 53. It's all right there. How we've suffered, how we've been bruised for other people's transgressions. It's just all right there. I'm just blown away still. It's right there.
Yeah.
Wasn't time. Wasn't time. That's a classic example of how we had to be freed from the chains of religion before we were able to see what was in front of our eyes.
Mm-hmm.
It also tells us how the truth has been hidden from those who have presented themselves as owning the Bible and the understandings of it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Oh, and the other comment I had was when you were talking about Africans being everywhere, basically. I was reading an article from some archaeological journal or something the other day, and they were saying they found evidence of uh, a mummy in Mesopotamia that connected to the DNA of Egyptians, ancient Egyptians, and we know ancient Egyptians were Black. So, yeah, so the Mesopotamians were too. And Mesopotamia is the area where the Sumerians and Abraham and all those people came from. So, yeah.
yeah, and usually what they do is this. They will say, we found blah, 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 blah from Egypt. And and there were some Black Northern Africans, which is separating Egypt from Africa in a very subtle way. So we those are things we have to be cognizant of. And I thank everybody really for your input today. I think we've had a vigorous discussion today and a great amount of understanding, as well as a huge amount of energy that has been released into the macro. I'm done.
Very good. Any other final thoughts or questions?
Yes, this is Angela. Hey, everyone. Hey, everyone. It's two things. One, I just wanted to know, have anybody looked into the alligator Alcatraz, the prison that they built on the Everglades in Florida with alligators, and this is supposed to be built for the immigrants. And I think they just opened it, I think a couple of days ago or something, but they said they had a flood and some people wanted to go in and look and see if, to see how it was, to make sure that the immigrants were safe or whoever was supposed to be put in there, and they refused to let them go in there, but it's built around like the Everglades. And I just wanted to know and that. And the other thing is, I was looking at something on social media, and it was reference to ICE going into Brooklyn, Haiti's community, and they was trying to, I guess, arrest some of them, and they was fighting back. But a lot of comments referred to saying that we are not our ancestors. We fight. I know that we are our ancestors, but that's one of the another things that they're disconnecting, saying that our ancestors didn't fight, but I know that they did, not in the way that they are referring to as physical, but spiritually they did. And
Okay.
that's all I wanted to say.
Alligator Alcatraz. That's a publicity stunt. I'm waiting for the ancestors to send a hurricane to destroy every bit of it. The Haitian community that was infiltrated by ICE A great amount of Haitians didn't have any love for us either. And the people from Dominican Republic think that they are white, and the Haitians are looked down upon by the Dominican inhabitants. Even though they have looked at us differently than they should have, they are still us. And the other part of that is this about the Haitians. They retain a greater understanding of spirituality from Africa than we did. The greater damage to Haiti is Christianity, Catholicism. That's the big damage there. And when I was in Haiti, I experienced a lot of spirituality that came from Africa. And the history of Haiti, the reason they were able to be free is because of this African woman, Ngonaive, who summons their ancestors, who gave instructions as to how to defeat the French. And they did it. And as a result of that, Haiti is the only nation on the face of the earth who successfully overthrew slavery, who successfully emancipated themselves. That's something to think about. I'm done.
Okay. Great day, y'all. Lot to ponder. And as Pastor's already said, thank you for your thoughts and your questions, your energy. Enjoy the rest of your day and look forward to tomorrow evening. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Have a great day.
Are we meeting with
Thank you.
California
Have a great
today?
day, everybody.
Thank you.
Calif-
Bye-bye.
California?
Are we meeting with California today?
Yes.